What's up YouTube, it's Sean here and I'm back today to give you guys a review of the Nike Air Max 1 86 OG Big Bubble. So these are definitely one of the most highly anticipated sneakers of the year, releasing on March 26, Air Max Day. And from what it looks like, it seems like these are going to be pretty widely available. So here in Canada, most of our major boutiques are getting them, including the Closet Inc. So the Closet Inc. is an independently owned and operated sneaker boutique based right here in Southern Ontario in Canada. And they carry a very solid collection of Nike Air Max shoes. So for all my Canadian viewers out there, if you guys want to support an independent shop, be sure to check out the Closet Inc. I'll add their website, their social media, all that good stuff down below. So this right here is the Big Bubble Nike Air Max 1. And to get into the backstory a little bit, so the story we've been told by Nike over the years is that the original Air Max 1 released on March 26 of 1987, which is what the 2017 anniversary pair was supposed to mimic. But there's a lesser known story that's being revealed with this release. So the original run of the Air Max 1, which happened back in 1986, a year prior, actually had a bit of a different look than the pair released in 1987. So this upcoming retro pays homage to that original 1986 pair, which actually had a subtle but different looking upper, and the biggest difference between the two is that the 86 version featured a much larger air unit. So this extra large air bubble was implemented according to Nike on the first 400,000 pairs or so, but as they started to release these pairs, Nike soon realized that there was a cracking issue, specifically when these airbags were exposed to colder climates. So because of that, Tinker Hatfield and the entire Nike production team had to quickly tweak the look of the Air Max 1, and one of the things they did was shrink the size of the visible air unit, which is the look of the Air Max 1 that we've all come to know and love over the past 35 plus years. So that's why when the original images of this Big Bubble release leaked, people were very shocked and quite frankly pretty upset with the look of this shoe. We're so accustomed to that 87 look that when we saw the images and the look of the Air Max 1 wasn't familiar to us whatsoever. To put it lightly, it was a bit of a shock. But I think it's fair to say that now that we know more of the backstory behind this look and we've grown more familiar and accustomed to the 86 cut, I think opinions are really starting to change. So again, these are releasing on Air Max Day, March 26 for $150 US or $190 here in Canada. And the official colorway for this shoe is white, university red, and light neutral gray. So first things first, here's a quick look at the box. So this comes in this black-based cardboard box that really looks vintage, and it almost looks like it's taken from the 80s. So on the top, we have this clear window with the Nike swoosh exposing the paper from within. And something I really like was on the sides of the box, we have these 4 holes, which mimic the look of the air unit or airbag within the Air Max 1. So diving into the details of this shoe, as we start things off with the toe box, so this is covered in this white colored mesh, and it has a bit of a subtle herringbone style weave to it. Surrounding the front toe cap, here we have this red colored synthetic suede which feels like felt, and you'll notice the toe box on these pairs are rounder and chunkier compared to the anniversary Air Max 1, but we'll get into a proper comparison between the two in a separate video. So moving on, covering the U-throw area of the shoe as well as the quarter panel, we have this gray colored synthetic suede which also feels like felt, and then the top 2 eyelets are constructed out of a red colored TPU or plastic. Stitched on top of the mid panel, we have a red suede swoosh, and that red suede mudguard runs down the entire length of the shoe, and you'll notice that the shape of this mudguard is a lot more exaggerated. It slopes downward quite aggressively from the heel towards the toe. Surrounding the top portion of the ankle collar area, we have a silky smooth white colored nylon, and then wrapping around the back of the shoe, we have more of that synthetic gray suede, and we have Nike Air embroidered in red, along with more red suede surrounding the bottom of the heel. As far as the laces go, so these come with a thin white style flat lace, and unfortunately there are no secondary lace options. Underneath this, so the majority of the tongue is constructed out of that same mesh that we saw on the toe box, but we have a vertically angled nylon found on the sides of the tongue, and running down the center on the top, we have this tag with Nike Air Max branding in a mix of white and red, but I noticed that the shade of red on this tag was a bit more orangey compared to the red used on the suede. So the interior of the shoe is pretty thinly padded, and it's covered in this white colored fabric. And stamped on the interior medial edge, we have the size of the shoe, which in this case is a size 10. As far as the insoles go, so these come with your typical foam lined insole. It's covered in this red colored finish on top, and we have Nike Air branding stamped on the heel in white. So the upper of the Air Max 1 sets out this very chunky polyurethane foam midsole. So this midsole is obviously the biggest change on these Air Max 1s, and you'll see how stacked and how elevated it is on the heel. So it's so chunky and so high up because it has to accommodate this larger air unit, which is visible on this window. And you can see, unlike the typical Air Max ones that we know, For this big bubble release, the air unit itself features 4 air chambers, and surrounding the air unit, you can see these 2 curved lines, which almost looks like it's 2 pieces of polyurethane, which they then fuse together. And don't forget, underneath the forefoot, we also have another air unit here, which is encased within this foam midsole. And another change they implemented on this midsole is the shape on the back. So unlike the Air Max ones that we're familiar with, which cuts off relatively straight down, for this version, it flares outwards, and we have these 2 long horizontal cutouts which wrap around the heel. Finally, turning this pair over to the bottom, so this is pretty much your typical Air Max 1 outsole. So this is constructed out of a mix of white, black, and red colored rubber. We still have that same waffle style traction pattern on the forefoot, along with Nike Air branding running down the center of the heel. So that breaks down the look and the construction of these Air Max 1s. And the $1,000,000 question is, how do these fit? So my foot measures as a true size 10, slightly on the wider side. I got these in a size 10, which is my true size, and overall they fit me pretty well in a snug 1-to-1 way. So historically, I've worn 10 to 10.5 in the Air Max 1. I found that for older releases, they fit a little bit more snug, whereas for more recent Air Max 1s, I can usually go true to size with no problems. So for this pair, even though there was a little bit less padding around this inner collar area, and the toe box feels a bit more bulbous and round, I actually felt like these ran a bit more snug than recent Air Max 1s that Nike has released to the public. So when I first tried to get my foot inside here, it actually felt quite snug, so I had to really unlace all the laces and then adjust them and lace them back up. But the longer I wore them, they definitely broke in, and after a while, I didn't feel any of that pressure around this toe box area. So I feel like if you have narrow, normal, or slightly wide feet, true to size should be perfectly fine. But if you have a really wide foot, you'd probably want to consider going up a half size. So to give you guys a point of comparison, going true to size for this one versus a normal Air Max 1, there was less than a finger's width space between the top of the shoe and the top of my toe, whereas for a regular Air Max 1 that I go with a size 10 in, there's about a finger's width, if not a little bit more space, between the top of the shoe and the top of my toe for those normal Air Max 1 pairs. So if it's at all possible, I know this is highly unlikely, if you're able to try these on somehow, I'd definitely recommend that first to figure out your proper size. Moving on to the comfort, so these feel pretty much like any other Air Max 1. I've been watching other people's reviews and they've said that these feel a lot more comfortable, but I kind of disagree. So the forefoot area pretty much feels identical. It feels pretty flat and firm, and there's not really too much from a softness and step and comfort perspective. And in terms of the heel, even though it visually looks a lot chunkier and the air unit is obviously a lot larger, I didn't really feel too big of a difference unless I was really trying to compress the air unit and lean backwards onto my heel specifically. But in a general walking motion, I didn't really feel too much of a difference. So if you're someone that normally likes Air Max 1s on feet, then I think you'll like these as well. But if you're someone that finds them to be typically uncomfortable, then I think these aren't going to be that much better. Finally, in terms of the overall quality and craftsmanship, so first off, material quality was pretty poor. So to be honest, this shoe is entirely constructed out of synthetic materials. This suede, like I mentioned, really feels like felt, but I'm assuming that's what the original Air Max 1s were crafted out of. So in that sense, I can't really complain because they are trying to stay faithful to the originals from the 80s. And from a build and craftsmanship standpoint, it definitely wasn't perfect. For example, the mesh on my right foot, it wasn't really laying flat as much as the left foot, and even small things like there was a chip in the foam midsole around the air bubble of the right foot. So I'd say that this is definitely not the best pair I've seen coming out from the Nike factory. It's not totally bad, but I think the quality control could have been much better. So with all that out of the way now, let's toss these on feet. I'll lace them up and I'll show you guys how these look. The Air Max 1 is a shoe that I'm a huge fan of, and this original white and red colorway is just one of those shoes that I'll always have in my collection. I personally own a few pairs of the anniversary edition, and while you guys might think it's a bit repetitive, I love the history and the backstory behind this big bubble version. So to me, this is a no-brainer pickup, even though I'll probably stick to actually rocking the anniversary pair over these ones. I think it's just because I'm so used to seeing that classic anniversary shape. A part of me still thinks the look of the shoe is a little bit off, but it totally makes sense because a lot of us have been collecting sneakers for 10, 15, 20 years. So when Nike keeps showing us the look of the anniversary pair and then suddenly switches things up and then giving us a shoe that looks like this, it's human nature to feel a little bit shocked. But like I said, the more we are exposed to this look, the more opinions, including mine, are really starting to shift. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this Nike Air Max 1 86 OG in this Big Bubble edition. What are your overall thoughts on this retro look? And between this one and the classic anniversary pair, which of the two do you guys prefer? For anyone watching, let me know as well if you plan on copying these when they drop on March 26th. Is this going to be a drop or a pass for you? Either way, let me know. If you guys like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can follow me on Instagram at esco8, follow my Twitter account at sean.go, and visit my website as well at seango.ca. So until next time, thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review and hopefully it helped you in some way. Good luck for those copying these on March 26th, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one.